So here's the deal. This is week 9 of 12. So this is phase 3. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Sorry, I'm a little low. We're gonna go ahead and get started with our power primer, which is the rotational throws. Nothing crazy. It's the start of a new block, or start of a new phase. So everything is variation for the most part. I do like to do progressions in each phase as opposed to technically carrying them from phase to phase. It just kind of depends on what it is, honestly. But for the upper body days, it's basically just a run-of-the-mill kind of built-in progression for these individual 4 weeks. Whereas the sprint days are taking into account everything we've done up until now and kind of building off of it, ultimately culminating into the timed 40s. So, but anyway, that's not what today is. Today's the upper body day. We're going to get started with rotationals. I'm doing 5x2, I believe, on each side. And then, yeah, that'll be it. So after that, we're getting into incline barbell bench press again, my favorite. So, but for right now, we're just going to throw our shit up against that wall right there. And I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. These first couple, I'm adding a little break in between the throws. And then as I loosen up a little bit more, I'll try and be more back-to-back with it. I haven't done this before in terms of incline pressing outside of my rack. I've always been inside of the rack. And so you and I will be experiencing this for the first time together. And so hopefully everything goes well. I don't have the half rack safeties, but I'm also not doing anything crazy today. Which, speaking of that, we're looking at wave loading for this block. Because I'm going to ultimately peak for a heavy single on bench on week 12, and it's going to be flat. So the first 2 weeks, I believe, I'm doing incline, and then we do some introductory stuff into flat on week 3, week 11, and then a heavy single on week 12. Nothing too crazy. Wave loading, if you don't know what that is, it's literally like 3 sets kind of in one wave. And then you just do the wave again with slightly higher loading. So today I'm looking at like 200, 210, 220, maybe 205, 215, 225. Just kind of depends on how everything feels. And that's all based off of a 1RM of like 270. So we'll see how it goes. Empty bars up first. 30-degree incline, if I didn't already say that. And we're going right into 135. Now, in case you're not familiar with why I'm outside the rack this time, is previously, whenever we do incline stuff inside the rack, just given how the bench is designed and my lat pull down and everything else, it kind of prevents the bench, me, from getting into a good position to unrack the bar. And so I have to set up really weird or deal with a really uncomfortable unrack on incline. Whereas out here, I can obviously, put myself wherever I need to be to unrack this comfortably. So again, I'll probably look at half rack safeties in the future just so I have something when I inevitably do like my max effort on incline. So anyway, that's why, in case y'all were like, Why don't you just incline press inside the rack? That's why. And I had been doing it like that for a long time, so. Feeling good so far. All right, guys, this is basically wave one, where we're gonna do 200, which is what's on here now, right? Yeah, to make sure my math was right. 200 for 5, and then we'll go 210 for 4, and then 220 for 3. And then we do it again, or go up. Usually you want to go up. It just depends on, you know, what kind of approach you're trying to do, because you could do volume of waves, or you could do like ladder waves where you're increasing the load as you go through, or whatever. You know, there's a lot of different ways to train. Anyway, 200 on the bar for 5. Hopefully it doesn't feel like shit. The only thing that I have an issue with is my legs. I can never like really feel like I'm in a great position. I might have to scoot up just a little bit. I don't know. I thought about playing around with the seat, which I might actually do that right now. Actually, speaking of the devil, might actually do that right now. That might feel a little bit better and get my feet on the ground. Thanks, guys, for the idea. Easy peasy. All right, this is what did I say, 210 for 4. The last set, changing the seat position did help. I felt that it did help. Part of the issue is like I got like the wide bench pad, so like because it's wide, my legs have to be basically like, you know, fucking flared all the way open in order to get some leg drive. It's the only downside. Everything else is perfectly fine. But again, playing with the seat angle here kind of allows me to dig my feet in a little bit better. But also, I think it's kind of just like an incline problem too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's like, I don't know. I was gonna say like an issue with the bench. I think it's just like incline variations in general. Not bad. All right, fellas, last one. And then we get to do it all again, because I don't think I'm going to be able to go up. Adding weight seems a little difficult. 200 for 5 didn't feel that bad, but 210 for 4 was kind of hard. So, I don't know, 220 for 3. I reckon the first 2 reps won't be too bad. It'll be the third that'll be pretty difficult. But so far, I'm doing a good job with leg drive, keeping the hips down. So I just need to focus and keep doing that, because, again, we have to do the wave over again. So, but I'm probably going to be more confident going in for the second set, just because you've hit all the weights already. So it's just a matter of managing your fatigue at that point. Anyway, let's get to it. 220 for 3. And I know I'm probably bothering a lot of you by doing 220 instead of 225, but there's an important lesson in there somewhere. Don't be caught up with specific numbers or specific achievements. Your job is to show up and do the work, whatever that looks like, as often as you can. See, I just had to make sure I didn't rush this set. And I've told you all that before. Under certain circumstances, I've also trained a lot of people that they know that the exercise is getting more difficult, so they rush it. They want to get it over with. They're like, if I don't go, I'm definitely not going to get it, right? Like, that's the logic. I have to do it now or I'm not going to get it. When in reality, I think the inverse is true. If you go right now, you're probably not going to get it. I think it's better to take your time, brace, get that kind of energy that you need where it's like, this is fucking it. I need to push super hard. And then you get it. It'll be a grinder, but you'll get it. As opposed to rushing, and then you either misgroove, didn't brace hard enough, weren't mentally ready, whatever. I think more people would benefit from, despite all the shaking and the, how grindy a rep was, take a second. Focus on what you're trying to do, laser in, right? And then knock it out. Don't be in such a rush. Learn to remain calm under pressure. Relatively calm, right? So, anyway, we're going to go all the way back down to 200. Repeat. We're going to do 200 for 5, 210 for 4, 220 for 3. And then we'll get to move on to our accessory work. So, let's get it. I noticed my hips were coming up at the beginning. I think it was just because of how I was pushing off my legs. Because I was able to kind of change the force. My hips came down. So, a little fuck up by me. But it's all good. All right, on to the next. All right, here we go. And I am feeling a little bit better second go around. But see, that's what I'm talking about. You do your 3, I'm getting a little shaky, I stop, I make sure everything feels good, everything's in the right spot, and then I descend. I'm telling you, probably initially, it'll feel like you're fucking yourself over, but the better you get at maintaining your composure and just trying to focus, relax. Because I used to be one of those lifters that would get angry like in order to like hype yourself up. Now, I mean, nothing changed. I just like in terms of like my mental, I just I feel that remaining composed helps more than getting angry does. Now, obviously, everyone's different. You know, that goes without being said. But I think if you're able to train yourself to remain composed, you'll do better. I honestly believe that. So, anyway, we got one more. 220 for 3. Let's fucking go. Easy peasy. All right, guys, your favorite, or my favorite, inverted rows. But unlike the ones we did, what, 2 phases ago, I think, where we're doing like the isodynamics with the inverted. This time we're doing like loaded inverted. And if you couldn't already guess, traditional inverted rows are similar to push-ups in the sense that loading is kind of weird. I mean, you can get a decent amount on there, but I like loading these via my lat pull down. So that's what we're going to do again. Now, the first set is going to be just run-of-the-mill fucking, you know, body weight at the same angle just because it's super easy. It's a good way to warm up. Just fix my orientation here. There we go. So I normally set up like give or take like right here somewhere. And then I just do my inverted rows here. Cool. Now, as I'm sure you can guess, we get our dip belt loaded up. We throw some weight on the stack. We have that perpendicular angle between the cable and my body, right? So it's like this. And then I just do my inverted rows just like my push-ups. So we're going to do 2 sets of like 10 to 12. Nothing crazy. I'm probably going to throw a 45 on there initially to see how that feels. And then we'll go to 90 pounds. 90 pounds should be fine. And then I'll progress it from there over the course of the weeks. If 90 pounds is still super light, I might jack that up to like 100, 105, something like that. We'll see. Now y'all may get a kick out of this one because we have to spin this around so that it's behind us. So see, I get up to a point where I can feel the tension, and then I just pick it up. that out of the way. Oh. Oh. We're doing a Z press, which it's been a while since I've done these, so I have no idea what to use. So I chose 40s, because I don't really feel like that should be an issue, but we'll see. So we're looking for like 8 to 12, somewhere in that range. So if I can get all 12, that'd be great. But I don't know if I'll go up, because I imagine it'll be pretty fucking hard. But anyway, we're just going to do it right here. So hopefully this is a good camera angle. I have no idea. So you step out of frame for just a second. Ooh, picking those 40s up. It's kind of heavy. Ooh, okay. Now, if you don't know what a Z press is, it hails from, I forget his first name. Savagus? Is that the right guy? Zadrunas? I know Zadrunas is the Z for Z press. I forget the guy's first name though. Anyway, he's a strongman, and he kind of hailed the seated press. Now, to my knowledge, he did it with a log, but he did it with a wide variety of implements over time as well. Ugh. And so you basically take like a seated position, a little bit wide in some cases. Some people will use it as like a mobility exercise and go extra wide with the legs. I just like kind of like an L-sit position. So normally I'm like right here, give or take, and I just sit up as high as I can. Ooh, shoulder press position. Flex the feet, and we're here. Oh. Yeah, that wasn't too bad for 12. So the hard part, or I guess the exposure that happens there, is because you're in this L-sit position, you have a lot of hip flexor strength being tested here just to maintain rigidity throughout the legs. Because again, even though you're seated, you need tension down here to keep shit from moving around. And then on top of that, a lot of core strength involved, not only to keep you out of this position, so tall thoracic extension here, but also to avoid the side bending as well. And so there's a lot going on just holding the weight over your head. And then not to mention actually pressing it afterwards, which in case a lot of people's true overhead mobility gets tested, because again, if you were to go to a standing position or, you know, a bench or whatever, people typically either lean back, like they extend at the lumbar in order to get overhead, or they take a high inclined position on the bench in order to, you know, get overhead. And so in the Z press, you can't do either of those things because you don't have a bench support, and if you extend too far back, you fall over. So it's definitely a brutal exercise for sure. But if you ever want to work on some compromising positions, or work on just a lot of, I guess, like anterior and posterior oblique sling work, which is basically the musculature that runs diagonally across the body and stabilizes you. This is definitely the exercise to do it, that's for sure. And you wouldn't even necessarily have to press. Even just like if you did like hanging band technique or bamboo bar, or even just like a T-pose, or did like external rotations, or like, you know, L-sit laterals, or whatever. Just being able to maintain this tall, upright posture here with load that's moving is going to be enough to challenge you if you're like severely limited, right? So anyway, we're going to do one more of those. I'm going to stay at 40 because I do want to increase intensity as the weeks go by and maybe a little bit of volume. So we'll stay there. Quick water break. We'll be back. All right, guys, set number 2. Ooh, same deal. Nothing's changed. Ooh. Oh, super straightforward. We're doing barbell curls and banded overhead extensions. 2 sets of 15. Shouldn't be anything too crazy. And I'm not loading up the bar. The only reason I'm not loading up the bar is because I don't want to get too carried away with load. Just getting a nice pump. We can always do that stuff in the future. Gonna open up my hands just a little bit. And I know on some overhead stuff, when people do triceps, they try and keep their elbows tucked the whole time. But understand, like, your elbow wants to flare. So if you try and keep your elbows tucked here, it's harder to flex your tricep. You'll notice if you relax, bend the elbow, a little bit of thoracic extension, so I'm kind of puffing my chest out a little bit. Now, neutral grip, so the thumbs are up. Just extend your elbow all the way. Look where your arm ends up and look at the direction that your elbow is facing. It's not here. The thumb is not out here like this. It's internally rotated here. So when you do tricep stuff, don't be afraid to let the elbows flare out, because a lot of times your body is doing things because it knows better than you do. And it's like, hey, we should probably do it this way because I can generate more force this way. But you're telling it no, to fuck off. And that's probably why your elbow hurts. But if you're already doing it and your elbow hurts, in that case, it's probably just a training issue. You're just doing too much, or too much load, whatever, too much volume, whatever. Because I've seen people's upper body programs where it's like 3 variations of bench press, and then overhead press, and then a bunch of like arm stuff afterwards. I'm like, damn, bro, give your poor elbow a break, dude. Holy fuck. Anyway, we're gonna do that one more time, and then we're all done. All right, round 2, guys. Round 2. Again, no weight on the bar. And some people may ask too why almost out of frame. Why I stop a little early instead of extending my arms all the way down. And that's kind of a simple answer, really. It's only because you don't always have to train full ROM. You can have exercises that train partial ROM, because some exercises bias themselves really well to partial ROMs. Like the barbell curl. For example, peak tension's right here, right? So if I just stay here a little bit below and above that range and just kind of work that range of motion where there's peak tension, is there really any inherent negative to that? Especially if later in the week I do a curl variation where I do get full ROM, maybe even some shoulder extension, and then I'm working full ROM. So I'm not saying you have to analyze every single one of your exercises like that in a program, but if you're ever like, oh, excuse me. Oh, don't worry, I'll edit that out. Edit that out. Edit what out? Anyway, so here's the thing. You don't have to do that with every single exercise, but if you wanted to play around with partial ROM something, experiment with twice a week. So let's say you do everyone's favorite exercise, Bulgarian split squats, and you did like a deficit split squat where both feet are elevated and you're getting like deep as shit into the Bulgarian. And then the second time you train single leg that week, you do, let's say, not even partial ROM, but just a split squat. So both feet just on the ground. And then just work that range of motion. There you go, you did it. You're taking something that's basically the same pattern, training different ranges of motion, getting strong respectively in each one of them, and then watch things like your squat explode, watch things like your deadlift explode, because you're training a variety of ranges. And when you look at the conjugate method, that's what they do. They do a lot of range of motion specific training, box squats, for example, and then deep free squats. They train all of them because there's validity in training that way. Especially if you have a lot of different training tools where you can take advantage of not only the different ranges, but different peak tension in those ranges depending on, you know, what kind of implement you're using. I don't even know what rep I'm on, I'm gonna be honest. Just go until I can't. But anyway, session's over. All right, so I don't have a whole lot to talk about. This was obviously our first session into week 9, as stated at the beginning. And it's a fun one. I like the emphasis that I put on the KPI. So that was a lot of good, solid work. So it's going to be a little finicky because I did something new that I don't normally do. And that is incline for the first 2 weeks and then flat for the last 2 weeks. Normally I do the one variation all the way through, at least for KPIs. And this time I didn't. So we'll kind of see how that pans out because I haven't done that before. And I don't know if it'll even pay off because I'm working up to a single on week 4, but this isn't a like strength training block. If anything, it's like a strength maintenance block. Not to mention a good reintroduction before we go into conjugate for the next part of the year here, the next 3 months. So with that being said, the rest of the week is going to be brutal. This last phase, the 2 field days got a little bit rougher in terms of the field training. I'm doing a lot of volume tomorrow with contrast training. We're doing a lot of resisted sprints and then body weight. And then Friday's just as fucking brutal too. So although I don't think we're doing contrast on Friday, I think it's just raw. But anyway, the upper body days are still easy, relatively speaking, to give myself adequate rest in between. We're still doing tempo runs on Wednesdays. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I got for you guys. Obviously, as the week goes on, we'll have more to talk about. But as it stands right now, it's a great session. Yeah. And I'm excited to see what kind of numbers we can whip up here in week 12. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.